Item 3 is consideration of the consent agenda. Any items to be removed?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Gillespie,
Yes.
Wimpy,
Yes.
Parks,
Yes.
Udi,
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes. Item 5 is presentations. Presentation Economic Development Update, including recruitment efforts for retail, restaurants, manufacturing in the city of Broken Arrow. Norm.
Yes, good afternoon. Norm Stevens, Economic Development Manager. I got a report back from Jennifer Sweezy's crew that shows that when these reports are put out on Facebook, that the average length of time that a Facebook user spends in reviewing it is surprisingly short. So in an effort to capture them before they click off of my presentation,
I think
I'm
you're
gonna
too
be
late.
real quick with my
you're too late already.
first social media misconception. Number 5 is the city is intentionally trying to keep retail out of South Broken Arrow. That is a complete delusion. Of all the comments that I've ever had sent to me, that is the one that I just shook my head. Let me tell you what we have done. Over the past 10 years, city and chamber staff have dedicated significantly greater amount of resources to recruit retail, restaurants, and fitness centers to South BA as compared to the rest of the city. Over the past 10 years, I've attended ICSC in Texas and Las Vegas. ICSC, as you know, is the foremost conference for retail real estate. Each year, most, if not all, of my visits are dedicated towards site selectors to push South Broken Arrow to them. Each year, we present the information in a grounds for development that our Broken Arrow Economic Development Corporation does. As you can see, for 2017, the cover was dedicated to the Warren Theater. For 2019, the cover was dedicated to the shops at Aspen Creek. This one that just came hot off the press, and this is just a first copy, has the Brio on it, and we were trying to get something from New Orleans Square, but we couldn't get a picture that we thought would work the best. So I went ahead and said, hey, use the Brio on it. We'll push that out. But there are 7 separate pages in this publication dedicated to South Broken Arrow. When I go to these conferences, South Broken Arrow is what I am pushing. I spend very little time at ICSC discussing North Broken Arrow. There's no need to. Site selectors know what North Broken Arrow has. It knows about the density. It knows about the ease to Tulsa. It knows about the traffic counts. They have most of the necessary shopping. Yes, Dick's Sporting Goods and Sprouts came as a result of my visits to ICSC, but they were first shown South Broken Arrow and decided to locate in North Broken Arrow. In a 60-day period this year, members of the Tourist and Economic Development Department under the City Manager's Office sent out and met with over 6 representatives from in the 60-day period earlier this year, members of TED team met with representatives from 4 separate National Health Club chains about locating a facility in South Broken Arrow in the former research building. Representatives from VASA, who I talked to them on several occasions, remain consistent in their opinion that North BA is the only part of the city they are considering for a new location, even after significant incentives were discussed. Recently, a member of the TED team drove to corporate headquarters of a large furniture store in an effort to recruit them to South Broken Arrow. After touring Broken Arrow, they are in the process of securing a site in the northern part of our city. As mentioned in previous presentation, representatives from the City of BA and the Chamber of Commerce have met with, exchanged information with, or provided recruitment information to dozens of supermarket chains about the benefit of locating in South Broken Arrow. I've personally met with site selectors for Home Depot over the past 10 years. During that time, conversations were strong, then they backed off. The last time I talked with them, which was 1.5 years or 2 years ago, they said that Home Depot had changed their model at that point and that they were only going to build 5 new stores in all of the United States. All 5 of those stores were going to be located in Florida. A couple of years ago, representatives from the City of Broken Arrow, including City Manager Michael Spurgeon, and representatives from the Broken Arrow Chamber of Commerce drove to Oklahoma City and spent the day for the specific purpose of recruiting Heyday Sports to the shops at Aspen Creek. After a considerable amount of time and effort was spent in those recruitment efforts, they decided to put a new store in Texas instead of locating one in Oklahoma. In 2019, while attending ICSC in Texas, I met with a real estate broker for Price Edwards. That person was a site selector for Academy. I spent a considerable amount of time with that person, pushing the need for Academy to be located in South Broken Arrow. Those talks eventually failed, and they didn't come to Broken Arrow at all at this time. Staff from the city of Broken Arrow has actively recruited two water parks and many motels to South Broken Arrow. The lack of shopping and dining options in South BA may result in citizens driving a couple of miles to the west to shop along the Memorial Corridor. Any thought that staff from the city is not actively pursuing the retail investment in South Broken Arrow, the people must understand, or the people don't understand, that we fund our government primarily off sales tax. And if that sales tax is going to South Broken Arrow, then we would be working against ourselves. If we weren't recruiting it to South Broken Arrow, we're working against ourselves. Based on this fact alone, the very notion that the city does not recruit retail and restaurants to South BA is complete madness. A separate issue is often South Broken Arrow residents fail to support some of the businesses in South Broken Arrow. If you want to continue to have great businesses in South BA, you've got to frequent the businesses in South BA and you've got to spend your money there. It's very, very simple. I'm going to move on to number 6 on the social media misconceptions.
Before you do, Norm, I just want to say there are a lot of good businesses all around the South, especially at New Orleans Square, that are doing very, very well. And I think it's a great point that we need to support those businesses because they made that investment. I think that was brought up at the groundbreaking we had the other day. It was talking about the investments are being made, and you know what? If they're gonna make it, they have to get the people that live here to support them.
Yeah. Yes, sir. You're exactly right. That is exactly correct. Item number 6, or the 6th one, is if you build it, they will come. You know, this is a concept that I hear a lot, and retailers don't want to be where growth is going. Retailers want to be where growth is. A perfect example is the Warren Theater. When we recruited the Warren Theater and we did the shops at Aspen Creek, I honestly believe, that by recruiting a world-class theater, somewhat $40 million worth of theater to South Broken Arrow, that the retail would come in around it. Since that time, we all know there's been very, very little retail come in around it. Now, a difference in that type of concept is Bass Pro. Bass Pro was such a significant retail attraction that when it located in the north part of our city, it started to fill in what seemed like almost immediately. The difference is the traffic counts on the Broken Arrow Expressway compared to the Creek Turnpike. The Broken Arrow Expressway on any given day will have 97,500 cars going up and down it. During the same time period in the same section of the Creek Turnpike, you will have 13,000 cars. If you're a retailer, where do you want to locate your business? 98,000 cars or 13,000 cars? It's really quite simple. Also, big box stores and grocery stores first of all, big box stores aren't locating anywhere. But grocery stores have a reluctance to open next to theaters. So that is another reason that nothing came into the shops of Aspen Creek as far as a grocery store. In upcoming presentations, you'll hear me discuss how developers have a herd mentality, or the tendency to follow and copy what other investors are doing. Hobby Lobby moved out of their existing location at New Orleans and Elm to relocate to Hillside Drive, due partially to the high traffic counts of Broken Arrow, and the other driving force was the condition of the building. And they've done quite well where they are now. During the recruitment process, when Home Church came to us, we were very reluctant at first to put a church in there. And the development director at that time went and sat with Mr. Spurgeon and talked with him. Mr. Spurgeon gave him some ideas to begin negotiations. And a couple of those ideas was make them include retail as part of their site and make them consider out parcels. As everybody on this council knows, or this authority rather knows, we did a groundbreaking last week. Or was it this week? It's been a long week. We did a groundbreaking, and it's all full. Everything on the east side is full, and they also talked about 2 out parcels. That was a significant improvement to that area. It also added density to that area. It also added life, and it also spruced up the area. That is something that we really should be happy about. When we recruited Sprouts Farmers Market to BA, they specifically requested to be near the Broken Arrow Expressway. At the recommendation of Mr. Spurgeon, I recently met with representatives from Cullinan Properties to tour South Broken Arrow, and they came in. They had done a project where Mr. Spurgeon was from called the Streets of St. Charles, and we were talking to them about doing a similar concept in South Broken Arrow. After touring the city, they began to negotiate with a landowner who unfortunately had property in the northern part of Broken Arrow. Those talks finally broke down. They were not able to come upon a price they could agree upon, and Cullinan decided to look elsewhere. People still have the misconception that representatives from the city need only pick up the phone, call Home Depot, Lowe's, IKEA, or Whole Foods, tell them about New Orleans Square, and here they come. It doesn't work that way. It's not factual. As mentioned in my previous presentation, national retail chains dedicate a tremendous amount of time and resources to hedge their bet for the best opportunity for success. Although a call from an economic development specialist may put a certain location on a list, much vetting will take place before they ever turn over the first shovel of dirt. With all this information I've just given you, it's very sobering. And you're sitting here saying, what in the world is the good part of this presentation? Well, now I'm going to tell you the rest of the story. Only I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to ask for Larry Curtis to come up, and he's going to talk to you about what's going on in South Broken Arrow. He's going to explain to you the very thing for the last 5 years that our city manager's been talking to the city about stand by. It's going to happen. It's moving that way. Is happening. It is moving that way. If it's all right with you, sir, I'm going to ask Larry to step up.
You've seen enough of me, I'm sure, but I'm excited to give this presentation just because this is something that planners get to do not as often as we would like, which is to review our history and to provide hope and understanding to the community that we are devoted to. So in the first portion of this, I wanted to talk about residential growth in Broken Arrow from 1984 to 2019. And I promise I'm not going to go year by year or any of those things. It would be nice, but I won't. So this is our city in 1984. You can see the growth that we have in 1984 is centered around downtown with a stretch going down Elm Place all the way down to the southern part of the city, which was because we have the Indian Springs golf course, and we had large homes that were developed down there, so that had a lot of tract. That means larger houses, means a lot of new wealth in that area that also showed for disposable incomes. And so in this area, we have a lot of development around that corridor, that main artery of the city, which is Elm Place. And so looking at that and looking at the growth that we have, we do have growth along the Broken Arrow Expressway on the south side of the highway. But as you can also see, where's 169 currently in 1984? It stops at 51st Street. And obviously there's no Creek Turnpike. Without any of those infrastructures in place, development is limited. And so from 1984, we'll jump ahead to 1995. So this is 1995. It's really hard because we go from a color image to a gray image of a satellite image. So staff went forward and we highlighted the growth areas of the city during that time. So from 1984 to 1995, these were the growth areas of the city. Where are those things from 1984 to 1995? What were the things that changed? Broken Arrow or the 169 highway went all the way down, and the Creek Turnpike on the western side of the city where it was installed. So where do we see the growth patterns? Growth patterns indicate, hey, there is a highway there now. I can develop out that land. In addition to that, there is retail growth along 71st Street, along Mingo, along Memorial. So where do people want to build and things along those lines in those areas? But as with everything that Norm has stated repeatedly over and over again, and Ted Team has stated repeatedly over and over again, it takes rooftops to create traffic. Traffic creates disposable income. So from this time, we see the development along the along the western side of the city, a few developments on the south side, but you can start seeing those developments on the north side and on the east side of the city. So now we go from 1995 to 2006. So there's that, and there we have it. So the blue is still the growth pattern that we see from 1984 to 1995. Now we see where the growth pattern has continued. Again, hard along the western side of the city with that growth pattern that we normally see. Now we see growth along the northern side of the Broken Arrow Expressway. So what does that create? That creates the traffic along the Broken Arrow Expressway. We have the traffic when we start seeing development go in. We see Highland Drive, Hillside Drive, sorry. Hillside Drive go in. We start seeing the Bass Pro Shop. Bass Pro goes in because it now has all those rooftops. In addition to that development, the green is indicating areas outside of our city that come to our city for growth and or for our shopping. So that huge swath of one total square miles of development that happens in the city of Tulsa, well, they're coming to the city of Broken Arrow. How are they getting to their jobs? They're coming to the Broken Arrow Expressway to get to the jobs in Tulsa at that time. We also have the creation of Forest Ridge out on the east side of the city. And what is it close to? The Broken Arrow Expressway. So that all that starts building up the momentum of that 90,000 traffic count on the Broken Arrow Expressway. So now jumping ahead from 1995, or excuse me, from 2006 to 2019, here we have the new pattern. Development is running out of land in the city of Broken Arrow on the north side of the city. So we're limited. We have about 2 square miles left on the north side of the city for development. We have a number of square miles on the east side still developed, but a lot of that is located on the outside of our city limits in our fence line, but eventually, hopefully, will be annexed into the city of Broken Arrow. So now the Creek Turnpike has been in place. Now the Creek Turnpike is now providing traffic. Things that happen in the state of Oklahoma don't happen as fast as we'd like for them to. So, but as you can see, we're now seeing the orange indicates the development that's going on the south side. The Creek Turnpike's in, people are able to travel there. Along with that, we also have the infill development that's happening in the middle of the city. For the longest time, we had that swath of land between downtown Broken Arrow just on the east side going all the way down, but that's starting to develop out. So really the pattern that we're starting to see now is the small infill developments within the middle of the city, the infill of what we have left on the north side, but really what's going on is happening on the south side of the city. So this next presentation, I'm just going to hit play and I'm going to talk through it. I'm not going to go by project. So this is the current development in southern Broken Arrow. So all those colorations that you see in there are all projects that are happening in southern Broken Arrow. So just to kind of start going over the numbers, southern Broken Arrow has 18,000 housing units out of roughly about 4,200 in the city. Out of that, over the past 5 years, our department has issued over 1,500 new home permits just on the south side alone. Currently, we have 852 lots that either have a house under construction on it or are ready to have a house being permitted on it. 272 lots are currently under construction or are currently under development that will be coming online within the next year. We have 95 multifamily housing units that are currently under construction on the south side of the city, namely near Indian Springs Sports Complex. We have 185 multifamily housing units that are under development and expect to start break construction early next year. In addition to that, there was an approval by this city council for a PUD to allow for potential for multifamily, in addition to some commercial development. This is expected to bring 500 units of multifamily online within the next 3 to 5 years. So that in total means that we have 15 subdivisions that are currently under development, totaling that 852, and we have 250 lots that will be coming online in the next 2 to 5 years. What we are seeing is what Broken Arrow is. It grows where it can have access, where it has the infrastructure associated with that. And I again, having been I'm not born here at Kenny, but I still feel myself to be a person of Broken Arrow, having been here since 6th grade, that it is something that is just that we have. When I grew up here, Price Mart down at Elma, New Orleans was where we went to shop for groceries, or Homeland, or Albertsons. All those things were there, but that was because that was the corridor, that was the artery, that was the infrastructure that provided for the city of Broken Arrow. One thing I wanted to point out back in 1995 is that also the reason why we had all that wild expansion going on is that we had the widening of the Broken Arrow Expressway. For those who remember the chaos of having to get to downtown Tulsa in the morning, my mom used to work for Amoco. It was an hour-long wait just for the traffic to die down to get to downtown. But since it was widened, that opened up more traffic capabilities, that opened up for the development on the north side of the city. So now with the Creek Turnpike in place, now that we have the infrastructure in place, now we are seeing the development that is happening. And I expect, as a part of that, that is why we're starting to see projects like Sound Mine, why we're seeing Russo, why are we having more and more pre-development meetings about projects in South Broken Arrow. I know people wish it had come sooner, but it takes time and infrastructure to get there. So that is my little spiel.
I'm going to introduce in a second on a different part of the presentation. But if you all have any questions for Larry and I on this first part, we'll be happy to answer those before we move on to the next part.
Any questions of Larry or Norm?
That was fun.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I really like this video. It's flying in. It's pretty
Yeah.
informative. Thank you, Larry.
He asked me how to do that, but I couldn't. Thanks, Larry. To finish out this presentation, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to invite Brent Brassfield and Aaron Hoffner to come up and discuss the 2020 holiday season. Yeah, it's that time. We are full planning right now for the Rose District. Y'all would like to come up?
I saw him looking in the window.
Chairman, if I could approach the council, we have a handout or two.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you, sir.
We will be very, very brief, and it's fortunate to be able to come before you with kind of a fun topic, because I know I've been there, done that, and not everything is fun in council meetings, and some of it's monotonous, but you will see before you, we've got some information about the
Elves.
We'd heard on the street today there were supposed to be elves in the community, and we didn't convey this to you. We're sorry, because we didn't know for sure they were here. And quite frankly, I love elves as much as anyone, but they can be quite annoying, and that was a very good example to see. But
And apparently quite tall.
Very tall.
we are, the one thing that is before you that's changed immediately is we've visited with organizations and people that have been involved in this Christmas activities for years. And I know it's been discussed historically about possibly rebranding Christmas activities, and we have rebranded it with approval from practically everyone. So this year's theme will be based on the classic Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life, and we're adding NBA. And I think administration, staff, council has in recent times emphasized our quality of living. We thought it went hand in hand. This movie, we think, goes hand in hand. So we have rebranded. We are going pretty much full tilt. As you can imagine, the logistics of really the biggest event that the city's responsible for, it takes a lot of work, and really we're only about 2 weeks away from the Christmas activities, 2 months away, 2 months and 5 days, I think, to be exact. Even though we're rebranding, we think we're improving. We've got kind of a high bar that was set last year about the effectiveness in the turnout. Great night, 2,000 people. We're not changing much. You will also notice probably that it's a little bit later into the month of November than it was last year. And that is basically due to the fact that we started doing veterans banners, which I think everybody thought was really neat and appropriate. So time-wise, Veterans Day is on November the 11th. To the company that contracts out to put the wreaths up in the Rose District for Christmas, it takes about 3 days. We want the banners up, obviously, for Veterans Day, so we went on ahead and bumped it up. We were going to go to the next Tuesday, and there is a council meeting that night. So we chose to go on ahead and do another week, so that's what we've done. It's really, really happy to introduce to you, I think most of you have met Erin Hoffner, who I'm still trying to get her title down, Marketing and Administrative Support Technician. She's been a great addition. We've told her that the compliments end after the first month, but she continues to do a great job, and she's a great addition to us. So we're going to kind of double team you, and I'll turn it over to Erin, and she's going to talk a little bit about the safety aspect of this year's event.
Yeah, so we want our citizens and visitors to Broken Arrow to still feel safe and comfortable with having all these wonderful holiday celebrations, so we're making a few minor tweaks to things. The first being having a socially distanced Santa, which everyone is asking, how in the world are you going to socially distance Santa? It's a very cool idea. So the city is going to be making sleighs, actually. We're going to have 2 sleighs, one for Santa himself to sit in and one for the kids to get to sit in, and they'll be set apart, the appropriate distance, and then we'll have a camera set up so that the angle of the camera, it'll still look wonderful, and you'll still get your special shot of your kid with Santa. And we'll have a microphone so they can talk to each other, because it might be kind of loud. And so they'll be able to interact, and the kids will be able to tell Santa what they want for Christmas, and it'll be a magical moment. And with that, we'll have attendants there to clean between each kid. We'll have a virtual queue, so you don't have to stand in a long line all next to each other. You'll just get in the queue, and then it'll alert you like 5, 10, 20 minutes before it's your time to go. And that'll also help. They'll get to shop during that time instead of just standing there and waiting for your time with Santa. That'll help the restaurants and the retailers as well. And then we will also be blocking off Dallas to Commercial Street on Main during the night of the lighting, and that'll be for the restaurants. It'll be overflow seating so that they don't have to immediately fill up their socially distanced restaurant. People can get a to-go order and sit outside on Main Street and enjoy the ambiance, and they'll be able to serve even more patrons that way. So those are some of the few safety measures. We'll also be working with the merchants, encouraging them to have proper things within their stores, whatever they're the most comfortable with as usual. And I think it'll be a wonderful year with all these new measures. So.
To add to what Erin was talking about, that there's other municipalities everywhere doing al fresco dining and doing outdoor activities and arrangements to enable people to eat outside that are not comfortable for still dining in. If y'all will recall, and this was a great problem to have, we had great weather last year, and we had people, probably at least a couple thousand people in the downtown area. Every restaurant had a line. So were they able to serve those people? Probably, after they waited. This year, we're going to give them the opportunity to take that overflow outside. So we think that'll be real effective. We went to each restaurant owner and asked their opinion about what they thought about that. Everybody's in favor of it. I'm going to touch just a little bit on events, and I'll end this brief update. The one thing, and you have to give credit where credit's due, we're really excited about one aspect of this year's events that we did not have last year. Upon Norm's recommendation, we're going to have one afternoon that we're calling Low Sensory Day, and this will be arrangements for children with autism. That's new territory for us, obviously, but Aaron has had good connections with there is an actual sensitive Santa that's skilled in visiting with kids, and we'll have handlers, and we're gonna have to. This entire event, as everything has been in 2020, is flexible and fluid. The music has been like, defining that's been like herding cats, because people don't want to commit, and we've assured them that if they should want to pull out, it's quite understandable. One thing that's not on this event, this presentation, really we just found out this afternoon. Their application has not been filed yet, but the Civitans are planning on having their Christmas parade just as they always have done. They have not delayed, but waited a bit before they filed their application, just to make sure that they felt confident in having our great parade like we normally do. So with that, you might have some questions, but Norm, I believe that's all we have this evening. Thank you very much.
That's it for this edition of the BA Economic Development Impact Report. Thanks for tuning in. And if you have any suggestions or would like something specific mentioned in a future monthly report, please call or send me an email. Until next time, I hope you will continue shopping local and be amazed at what our city has to offer.